Ariel is a 34-year-old soldier who has been loyally serving the Demon King's army ever since he was taken in as an abandoned baby and raised by one of the 4 heavenly generals, Grand Versa. Despite his long time of faithful service, he is stuck at the lowest of the low ranks in the army because he lacks the ability to use any magic. From the beginning of time, demons and humans have always fought wars against each other. The only difference between the two is that demons can wield magic and humans cannot. Having no magical powers, Dariel has been looked down upon by the other generals as a disgrace from the beginning. After his guardian Grand Versa retired, his son Bashabesa assumed his position. On the very first day, as one of the heavenly generals, Bashabesa fires Dariel from his position and kicks him out of the palace. With no home to go back to, Dariel wanders around aimlessly in the woods for days with little food to eat and very little sleep, in hopes of starting a new life. One morning, he stumbles upon a human woman who is being chased by a monkey monster. His natural instinct as a soldier makes him defend the woman from its attack. With 0 magical skills to use, he tries to use his brute strength to hold the monster off, but falls to the ground mid-charge, using his weakened and starved body. The monster punches him, sending him flying across. Ariel notices a dagger in the woman's fallen bag. Even though it is considered a taboo for a Demon King army soldier to use a human weapon, he grabs it and stabs the monster in its chest, copying the moves of a human hero he had seen before. Seeing the monster that attacked her killed, the woman thanks Dariel for saving her life. He tries to make his leave, but she grabs under the back of his cloak and refuses to let go until he agrees to come back to her village. She wishes to thank him properly by inviting him home and serving him a meal. Tempted by the offer of a good hot meal, Dariel agrees to go with her. Once they reach her home at Lux Village, she introduces herself as Malika. He even meets her mother and father, the village's mayor. He decides to be very cautious around them because they will attack him if they discover he is a demon. He explains that he was wandering in the forest because his former employer's son had taken over the business and fired him, forcing him to immediately leave the lodgings provided by the company. Grateful for saving her life, Malika and her parents insist on him staying in their house. Knowing he has nowhere else to go and no one else to care about him, he accepts their offer. The next day, Dariel and Malika's father discuss jobs over coffee. As the village's guild master, the father suggests Dariel register with the guild and become an adventurer, whose job is to complete quests requested by the locals, ranging from collecting herbs to defeating monsters. He believes he is perfect for the job, considering his physique, and gives him the guild registration form, making Dariel panic because only a human can successfully complete the ritual in the form. If he tries, he'll fail and reveal he is a demon. He tries to make excuses and run away, but Malika decides to help him out by forcefully poking his finger and putting a drop of his blood on the form. To Dariel's complete shock, he successfully performs the ritual and gets registered in the guild. He discovers that he was a human all along and was merely brought up by the demon Grand Versa in demon society. The next day, the father gives him the first lecture about being an adventurer. He first teaches him about aura. It is something that all humans are born with, which they can use by infusing it into their weapons to fight. The best choice of weapon for an adventurer depends on their aura, which can be of 4 types: slash, sting, protect, and hit. Dariel picks up the sword first, which will test his slash ability. The father gives him a large tree stump to slash across, saying slashing even halfway through is a good indicator of being the slash type. Despite not knowing how to use a sword, Dariel infuses his aura into it and makes a large slashing motion. The stump is cleanly cut all the way across, astonishing both Malika and the father. Next, he aims at an apple with a simple bow and arrow to test his sting ability. He hits the apple with tremendous force, causing it to fly back and raise a dust storm. After that, he is made to hit a boulder with a hammer, causing it to crumble into pieces. Finally, he has to block an attack by the father using a giant iron hammer with a small wooden shield to test his protectability. Despite the father's strongest attack, Dariel successfully blocks it and sends the father on his back. These results prove that Dariel has a perfect aura for all 4 types, something the father has never heard of. The father advises him to apply to the Central Guild, the top organization for any aspiring adventurer. His abilities are more than enough to get him in, and the father will also write him a letter of recommendation. However, Dariel sees Malika's tears and asks to remain in the village. Shortly after, the father introduces Dariel as a new adventurer to the villagers. Everybody happily welcomes him except for one green-haired teen guy who shames Dariel for being an old geezer. The teen is Gashida, the village's only current adventurer. Gashida asks him what his rank is. When Daryl reveals his E rank, Gashida makes fun of him and flexes his D rank, telling him not to get in his way. The father apologizes for Gashida's cocky behavior and gives him his first assignment, collecting a bunch of medicinal herbs to complete a pile of requests that Gashida refuses to do. Daryl accepts. The father warns him to be careful while looking for these herbs, as there have been multiple sightings of a monster in the surrounding woods. Gashida has the assignment to hunt it 6 months ago, but has been unsuccessful so far. When he shows Daryl a picture, Daryl and Malika realize that the monster is the same one that he killed and saved Malika from. With that, Daryl completed his first field assignment without even knowing it. The next day, Gashida and Daryl go over quests with the Guildmaster. The Guildmaster makes Gashida thank Daryl for defeating the monkey monster for him. Embarrassed and frustrated for being upstaged by an E-rank adventurer, Gashida grabs a quest from the master's desk, despite his protests, and runs off to complete it. Daryl sets off into the woods with Malika by his side to show him around and guide him. He notices she seems very comfortable moving around in the forest, walking past thorny bushes and climbing up short cliffs. She shares that she also always wanted to be an adventurer. She was in the woods the day Daryl saved her because an old woman in the village was sick with a bad cold, but Gashida refused to go and collect medicinal herbs. Once they reach a hubbin for herbs, they start looking for their first medicinal herb. It hurts beyond belief while foraging. She notices deer tracks and decides to hunt it down for dinner. They end up tracking a deer down, but its size turns a scary red. The monster deer jumps to a massive height and lands past them to fight another giant spider monster. Malika excitedly draws her dagger and runs toward them to try and kill both of them. Thanks to mostly Daryl, they kill both the monsters and bring them back to the village. Gashida runs off crying like a baby because his spotlight was stolen again. Days pass and Daryl adjusts to the village life well. The only problem is Gashida's unwillingness to work with Daryl. One day, Daryl arrives at the office to see the father stressed. The father explains that an urgent quest about a highly dangerous blaze death scythe monster in the village's woods has been issued. Since it is very powerful, hunting it is limited to C rankers and above, but the village has none. Due to this, the quest has been handed over to the neighboring town's guild, which has already dispatched its adventurers to surround it. Gashida ended up seeing the quest when he was at the guild office and left quickly, making the guild master worry that he will try to hunt it down himself and interfere with the other guild's plans. Such an incident could cause conflict between the two guilds, and the guild master will be held responsible. Daryl volunteers to go and get Gashida back safely. Malika gives him medicinal supplies she made from the herbs they had collected before he leaves. Daryl makes his way to the area where the Blaze Death Scythe was spotted, surprised to see a large trail left by the monster, and wonders where the other guild's adventurers are. He sees Gashida screaming and running toward him with a monster following him. Daryl holds his ground and prepares to fight the giant serpent, but it ignores him and continues following Gashida. Gashida tries to shoot it with an arrow, but the arrow merely bounces off its tough scales. Ariel attacks it from behind, but lands too shallow of a wound. The monster tries whipping its tail at Daryl, who tries to block it with his sword, causing it to break. Daryl takes one of the sharp pieces and uses both sting and hit abilities to throw the piece into the monster's mouth and blow apart its insides. It works, and the Blaze Death Scythe monster perishes at his feet. After that, Daryl applies the anti-venom that Malika gave to Gashida's bite wound and pours blood-staunch herb over his other wounds to stop the bleeding. With that, they return to the village. The next day, Gashida comes to the house and greets Daryl as Big Bro, saying that he owes his life to him and wishes to work under him after healing from his injuries. Meanwhile, at the Demon King's palace, one of the heavenly generals returns after being forced to flee a battle against a powerful heroes party. She blames her defeat on the new assistant of the heavenly generals because he did not scout the enemy properly and failed to report that a new spearman had joined the party. Bashabasa immediately fires him, making him the 4th or 5th assistant fired since Daryl's dismissal. One of the generals, Deroy, suggests reappointing Daryl, saying he always carried out his tasks perfectly, had skill and strategy, and also looked after their health. Bashabasa, however, hates him so much that his blood boils and refuses to consider that option. One night, Daryl asks the mayor why the village has so many empty houses. The mayor explains that beyond the village, there is a mithril mine, a highly valuable metal with mysterious properties. Humans use it to make superior quality weapons with unparalleled performance, while demons use it to make magical equipment. This led to disputes between the humans and demons for control over the mine. Since Lux Village was a common stopping place in the mithril trade route, it flourished as a lodging town. Unfortunately, when the mayor was a kid, the demons took complete control over the mine, causing the town's main revenue source to get cut off. Since then, Lux Village has slowly been declining to its ultimate death. Daryl decides to sneak into the mithril mine the next day, since he was the one in charge of the mine as a part of his duties as the assistant of the army generals. The workers there know him. He hopes that he can negotiate with at least one of them to get some mithril to bring back to Lux Village to help in its development. He puts an empty crate over his head and walks through the gate. Finding it weird, there is no security to hide from. He quickly realizes that there are no soldiers at the mine, wondering who has been put in charge of the mine since he was fired. He walks in the mine shaft yelling for anyone there to show themselves. A group of small beings with wide faces and fluorescent facial features called knockers emerges from the darkness. They immediately recognize Daryl and excitedly greet him, and he waves back equally enthusiastically. They hug him and line up to receive pats from him individually, claiming that he is the best boss they had. They tell him that they have supplied 4 times as much mithril as before under Bashabase's orders. They're treated with respect by the new management, and the soldiers that used to be deployed for their security have been withdrawn to cut costs. The rejoicing is cut short when a group of demon soldiers enters the mine. Daryl quickly hides behind a large rock. The new commander yells at the knockers for not supplying enough mithril in the given time frame. Despite their begging, he threatens and orders them to have the material ready by the next day, or there will be consequences. Fed up, one of the knockers decides to rebel and hits the commander on his head. Infuriated, he orders the soldiers to kill them all. Knowing the knockers have no match against trained soldiers, Daryl interrupts the first magical spell by throwing a spade at the soldier. He then appears in front of him with a sword, wearing a mask made of cloth to hide his identity. He asks the demons to withdraw, saying he will not pursue them if they do so, but if they continue attacking, they will have to face him. The commander simply laughs at him and orders his soldiers to continue their attack. Some of the soldiers start casting spells, but Daryl knows they require the utmost concentration to cast them, and as long as it can break their focus, it should be fine. However, one of the knockers tries to attack a soldier who has almost completed his ritual. Daryl thinks it is too late to save him, but the soldier kicks him back. Seeing this, Daryl realizes they have been trained as honorable soldiers just like he was, and he tries to appeal to their morals by urging them not to kill the knockers, as they are non-combatant civilians, and killing them would make them murderers, not soldiers. It seems to work until the commander attacks Daryl and threatens the soldiers with burning them to ash if they fail. The soldiers chant rituals of the different elements. Daryl knows the duration of each element's ritual, allowing him to time his attacks so that he takes down the soldiers in ascending order of the ritual durations. The commander frantically casts a spell on him, but he easily blocks it with his sword and tackles the commander to the ground with his sword on his neck. Desperate to save his own life, the commander begs Daryl to spare him because he is a civilian. He explains that he had simply gotten along well with Lord Bashabaza at a ball, after which the Lord entrusted him with managing the mine. The Honorable Daryl slashes his sword down, giving the commander a bad haircut, and tells him to go back and resign from his post. The commander instantly agrees and runs off with the soldiers following him. The grateful knockers thank Daryl for freeing them from the commander and making their boss. Ariel returns to the village and reports to the mayor that he has regained control over the mine. In return, he pleads with the mayor to assure protection for the knockers, and so the mithril mine returns under human control for the first time in decades. The knockers are allowed to remain there as guides since they are familiar with the entire mine's layout. With the re-emergence of mining, people pour into Lux Village, returning it to its previous state as a bustling, prosperous town. The Demon King's army continues to face problems due to severe mismanagement under Bashabaza's leadership, and the loss of mithril supply is the final nail in the coffin. The Demon King has him dragged to the throne room to punish him for his blunders. He is mad that Bashabaza unreasonably increased the weekly quota for mithril 4 times to make a weapon that the king had repeatedly told him not to make. Due to this, the knockers were overworked and turned against demons, something the king considers a grave mistake. He suggests bringing back Daryl to manage affairs like before, praising Bashabaza's father for being smart enough to keep good soldiers like Daryl close. Hearing his name triggers Bashabaza a lot, causing him to throw a tantrum outside the courtroom. With the village up and bustling, Malika tries asking Daryl to marry her, but is interrupted by a fight between Gashia and Fatibidin, the leader of Campbelltown's adventurers. After learning that Lux Village only has 2 D-rank adventurers, Fatibidin mocks their abilities by saying the mithril mine incident was just a fluke, telling them they will overtake all mine-related work. Daryl retorts by pointing out that killing the blazed death scythe monster was the Campbelltown adventurer's quest, but it was entirely taken care of by him and Gashida. Fitabetin is left speechless and is forced to drop his claim over the mine. The next day, Mr. Bestford, a diplomat from the Central Guild, meets with Daryl. He was sent to negotiate terms with the Knockers, but they are too wary to talk to anyone except Daryl. Daryl explains that they are being cautious because they were being exploited by the demon army and so can't trust outsiders. They think of Daryl as their savior from their demon oppressors, allowing them to trust him. Bestford requests Daryl to be an intermediary between the Knockers and the Guild during negotiations, and Daryl accepts. As soon as Daryl arrives at the mine and asks for Knockers to at least listen to what Mr. Bestford has to say, they immediately agree to cooperate. While leaving the mine, Daryl hears an announcement on behalf of the Demon King forgiving the Knockers for their betrayal and urging them to return and work for the demons. Daryl recognizes the voice and runs to look for it. Sure enough, the announcer is his former friend from the army, Rizit. Rizit builds a tall wall of rushing water between him and the adventurer, asking him to withdraw. Daryl tells him to calm down and reveals himself. Realizing it's him, Rizit hugs his old friend and tells him how worried he's been for him. Daryl tells Rizit the truth that he's actually a human. Although shocked, Rizit promises to keep his secret. Rizit echoes everyone's sentiment when he shares how badly everything is turning out for the demons ever since the Demon King reprimanded Bashabaza. He's been even worse. Rizit was sent here by the Demon King to reconcile with the Knockers and resolve any grievances. Maintaining a good relationship with demi-humans like the Knockers is essential for the demon's success. He tries to convince Daryl to come back, saying one of the 4 generals, Lady Deroy, has been advocating for his return. However, Daryl declines the offer, saying he has a new life now. Rizit tries to use his magic to force Daryl to come with him, but Daryl uses his new skills with the aura to stop him. He has another plan. Daryl takes Rizit to Mr. Bestford and pitches his idea. He suggests that humans should use their monopoly on mithril to sell some of it to the demons at a price 4 times higher than the market value. The 2 point out how mithril is an essential resource for both humans and demons, so the demons will definitely come to try and win back the mine. This would result in another battle and countless deaths. Instead, the humans could supply a small portion of mithril to avoid such a violent outcome. Rizit assures that the demons are in dire need of mithril and will be willing to pay the high price. Fatibitin, who is on guard duty, protests against this idea and attacks Rizit with a dagger that Daryl blocks. Mr. Bestford orders Fatibitin to stop, pointing out that he has only been hired for security and escort, and accepts Daryl's idea. The next day, Mr. Bestford instructs Daryl to find the old mithril workshop and get it running again. However, when he gets there, Fatibitin has already arrived with Campbelltown adventurers and claimed it. The mayor explained that the mithril mine used to be guarded by Campbelltown. Now that Daryl has regained control over it, Fatibitin is more adamant about the workshop. An old man named Smith comes to the village as an expert mithril smith upon the Central Guild's request. He asked Daryl to let him work at the workshop, but Daryl says that the workshop is under the control of Campbelltown. Smith goes down to the workshop and begs the arrogant Fatibitin to let him work there. Fatibitin largely dismisses him and only allows him to work in a corner of the workshop. He is overjoyed to be working with mithril again. The other smiths are having trouble forging the metals, so Smith demonstrates the proper way to do it by crafting a huge sword. Daryl is amazed at how easily his aura is absorbed into it and cuts through a giant tree without feeling any resistance. Fatibitin apologizes for looking down upon Smith earlier and begs him to come work at the workshop, but he refuses due to his initial rudeness. Later, Smith shares that his true goal is to make the greatest weapon in his lifetime for Daryl to use with his perfect aura of all 4 types. During his time at the workshop, he was able to pickpocket some of the mithril, and his assistant set up a small working space at the house. He brought an ethanol furnace, a type of magical equipment available on the black market. However, he cannot use it because it requires a magical source. Daryl calls Rizit to provide the required magic source, who only agrees to do it once because it's his friend Daryl's request. Later that day, Fatibidin tells Daryl to team up with Campbelltown and fight the Central Guild, claiming that they're keeping most of the profits from the mine for themselves. He promises that Campbelltown will treat Lux Village better if he agrees to form an alliance. Daryl declines, saying he can't team up with someone who's hurt so many people he cares about. Infuriated, Fatibidin challenges him to a duel at the village square the next day. Back at a house, the mayor explains the rules of a duel. The duel goes on until one of the participants surrenders or can no longer fight. The outcome of the duel will most probably be used to decide the ownership of the mine. If a person is killed in a duel, the killer isn't charged with a crime. Hence, people use duels as an opportunity to fulfill personal revenge. Worried for Daryl's life, everybody advises him to back out of the duel, which would mean Campbelltown gaining control of the mine, but Daryl insists that he will participate. Smith teaches him to use a mithril weapon for the duel. The next morning arrives, and both opponents meet at the square. Fatibidin is armed with a shield and blade partly made out of mithril. Ariel draws out a seemingly simple and small pure mithril knife, while Fatibidin taunts him about his weapon. Daryl flings a boulder that Fatibidin only notices when it explodes near his face. Fatibidin runs forth to attack, but Daryl forces him to stay back as he makes the blade of his knife extend. Fatibidin finds an opening and tries to make a move with his blade, but Daryl effectively blocks it with a knife. He follows it with a strike on Fatibidin's shield, causing the shield to split in two. Smith gives commentary in the background. He explains that the knife he made is called Hermes' sword and is no ordinary weapon. He designed it so that the wielder's aura can change its shape, and since Daryl has a perfect aura, there are no limits to the forms the sword can take. Daryl slashes Fatibidin's blade to pieces. One of Fatibidin's adventurers throws a mithril longsword at him. Daryl transforms his sword into a whip and shatters the longsword on Fatibidin's first attack, marking Daryl's swift victory. Fatibidin has taken away too many L's at this point. Malika is overjoyed and hugs Daryl while congratulating him. Later, Mr. Bestford from the Central Guild earnestly apologizes to Daryl for the incident and says that Campbelltown and its guild will be punished. Daryl asks if he can choose the punishment, requesting that the guild be made to repair the house's damage due to the duel. Recognizing his honor and talent, Bestford invites Daryl to join the Central Guild, which Malika overhears. Ariel says he will need some time to think about it. That night, while Daryl relaxes in the sauna, Malika enters and asks to talk to him. She says that since he will be going to the Central Guild, she wants to spend more time with him before he leaves. She encourages him to do well, saying that she knew this day would come since he is so talented. She thanks him for all the work he has done to make Lux Village a better place, and that she has never felt happier. Daryl says he already decided not to take the Central Guild's offer, claiming he loves the village. Malika is so relieved that she starts crying. Daryl holds her face to wipe her tears and kisses her. Over at the Demon King's palace, Bashabaza meets with his father Grandversa. Grandversa asks Bashabaza if he remembers what he said to him when he retired from his position as Heavenly General. Bashabaza recalls that he told him that Daryl was the greatest stroke of luck in his life, and passing him on to Bashabaza was a way to pass the good fortune to him and celebrate his new position. Grandversa asks him how Daryl is doing, to which Bashabaza frantically assures him that he is doing well serving the generals. Knowing his son is lying, he punches him through the wall. He demands Bashabaza bring Daryl back, but Bashabaza refuses yet again, saying he wishes to prove his worth on his own. The next day, the mayor has a chat with Daryl. He says he and his wife are getting old, and Daryl has greatly contributed to the village's growth, so he offers the title of mayor to Daryl. Daryl accepts and requests permission from him to marry Malika. Once granted, he asks for Malika's hand in marriage, and she gladly accepts. This marks the beginning of a new chapter in Daryl's life. 1 year passes, and Daryl and Malika are happily married with a baby son, Grand, named after Daryl's father figure, Grandversa. He opened up about his past to Malika and her family, and they accepted him regardless. He is a successful mayor under whom the mithril processing business flourishes in the village as it grows bigger and bigger. Smith passed away due to old age, having spent his last days in the workshop following his passion for mithril smithing. One day, Gashida informs Daryl that the hero is coming to the village. Hero is the title awarded to the strongest adventurer in the Central Guild devoted to defeating the Demon King. Daryl recalls the hero being a scary old bearded man who would kill demons mercilessly. Afraid that he will be recognized as the assistant to the demon army, Daryl prepares to greet the hero with his face covered. However, he is surprised to see the hero being a young, beautiful girl named Lady. She only recently earned the title after the old hero retired and has come to the village to acquire the perfect mithril weapon to fight the Demon King. She and her party receive lodging at the mayor's house. She states that she has two objectives for coming to the village, the first being that she wants to see mithril weapons. She's given a tour of the mithril workshop, the only one that exists in the world. Smith had passed on all his knowledge to the smiths working there before dying, including a boy named Sakai, who is currently the best mithril smith. Sakai touches Hero Lady's hand, just like Smith had taught him, and finds out that she is a slash type. Impressed, she reveals her second objective. She is seeking a fourth member for her party, a goal that she has been trying to complete by traveling to many regions. The village holds a competition to decide the fourth member, with many signing up to participate. The method of selection is a head-to-head battle between the three party members and all the participants. The hero's party members use kitchen utensils as handicaps, but all participants still lose. Suddenly, an arrow whistles past Lady's face. Gashida is the one who shot it from a distance, and he keeps shooting at her. Lady charges in the direction of the arrows, sensing that the attacker has good power. Gashida uses his aura to lift the arrows from the ground and attack her again, but she slashes them down. Gashida prepares for another round, but Lady activates an attack that would have killed Gashida, so Dariel is forced to intervene to save Gashida's life. Gashida apologizes to Dariel for disgracing the village, but Dariel praises him for his effort as the strongest adventurer in the village. Within a year, Gashida has leveled up from D rank to B rank. Sensing his powers, Lady starts an attack on Dariel to test him. He is an even match for her, forcing Lady to use her most powerful move, Skyrend. Dariel has already seen this attack multiple times from the former hero and successfully counters it. Lady eagerly offers him the final position in her party, but he politely declines and goes back home. Lady and her party visit his house to try and convince him to join. Dariel insists that he is committed to being with his family and watching his son grow. In his mind, he also doesn't wish to fight the demons who once were his family, like Rizit, Gran Versa, and Lady Deroy. Lady cannot believe that there is anything more important than defeating the Demon King and decides to stalk Dariel to figure him out. Throughout the day, she watches and helps out the villagers on their errands and aids those in trouble. She understands that Dariel truly believes his highest purpose is to take care of his people. That night, she wishes to discuss something with him privately. She asks him where he learned the Skyrim technique. He claims that he picked it up by copying her style, but she points out how it was different from hers and more similar to the previous hero Lancels. When Dariel says he has no idea about this, Lady gets mad and urges him to join the fight against demons again. They argue over which side started the first attack against the other, with Dariel arguing that human heroes set out to kill the Demon King first and the demons merely fight out of defense. Lady rejects this, pointing out that one of the demon generals, Bezetin, had needlessly killed a Lancel's wife and son, which caused him to become a merciless monster and avenge his family's death. Despite all that, he never found his son's corpse. Dariel reasons that everyone from both sides fights for their loved ones and neither is the evil side. Lady is moved by his strong values and strength and requests him to be her teacher to improve her skills further. Dariel accepts, considering it a chance to persuade the hero to stop the Lone War. One day, Rizit visits Dariel to tell him about his new promotion to the Special and Void position, a new title made just for him after he successfully mediated the Mithril affair. Their meeting is hijacked by the appearance of Lady Zabienis, one of 4 heavenly generals. She punishes Rizit for not informing Deroy of Dariel's whereabouts even though he knew it all along. However, she is forced to behave civilly after Malika shows her fury. She demands Dariel's hand over the control of mithril supplies to her, but he refuses to comply, afraid of Malika's death stare. Zabienis moves the conversation outdoors, where she tries gaining control by using force. However, Dariel keeps beating her again and again. Frustrated, she tries a new plan: destroy the village with a geostorm and look for the mithril afterward. Dariel unleashes a giant Skyrend like a Lancels to swallow the storm. She goes out cold and starts falling down from her height, but Dariel and Rizit save her. Accepting her defeat, Zabienis agrees to buy some mithril from him and purchase a weapon that can be used with magic. Dariel goes to great lengths to keep the demon Zabienis away from Lady and her party when she visits the mithril workshop. However, they run into each other at the sauna and start arguing. Dariel interferes and brings them home to explain the situation. He comes clean about the truth to explain his attachment to both sides. They understand his situation, but continue to bicker between themselves. Malika suggests a duel to clear the air between them. Daryl decides to oversee the duel on the condition that neither will try to kill their opponent. The next morning, the duel begins. Both are evenly matched, and no clear winner emerges for a long time. Grand, Daryl's son, pushes his way out of Malika's arms and runs off toward the two mid-duel. A large boulder for one of their attacks is about to fall on him, but Zabienis destroys it in the air with a spell. This allows Lady to finally recognize the goodness in demons, and the two get along well and call off the duel. Daryl thinks this is the best outcome of the duel, as it proves the possibility of the demons and humans uniting. Over in the Demon King's courtroom, Grandversa requests the king to fire his son Bashabaza from his heavenly general post because he has abandoned his duties and not come out of his room for over a year. The Demon King points out how he seems to care much more about Daryl, the assistant he raised, than his own son. The king gives him Daryl's location, which he has known all this time. One day, one of Lady's party members brings a guest to Daryl after running into him during a quest. He is shocked to see the guest is Alincel, the strongest hero in history. Remembering him as a bloodthirsty murderer, Daryl is terrified to see him at his doorstep. However, he's even more shocked when he sees Alincel interact with the village kids like a gentle old man. The villagers are overjoyed to see one of their noble heroes in person. Daryl invites him into his home and warns Zabienis not to use magic in the village, as Alincel can sniff out magical energy like a hound dog. Alincel says he's come to the village to continue training his apprentice Lady since he is healed from the injuries he sustained from Grenerva's most powerful attack. Many people from the village come to spectate for training from the legendary hero. Alincel effortlessly dodges all her attacks while signing autographs. Noticing her sword skills have improved, he asks her who she's been training with. After learning Daryl has been her teacher while he was gone, Alincel asks Daryl to spar with him. Although hesitant, Daryl gets peer-pressured into it. He stalls by convincing Alincel to have a good meal before the fight. They enjoy a good picnic with delicious food when Alincel senses magic from Daryl's house. There is a sudden switch in his behavior. He flings his weapon toward the source, trapping Zabienis by her foot. He zooms into the house and attempts to kill her, but is blocked by Daryl, who refuses anybody to be killed within his village. The two men fight, with Daryl barely being able to defend himself, and Zabienis impressed that someone else can use all four types of aura. Alincel urges Daryl to become the hero, so they can work together to destroy the demons. When he refuses, the two unleash Skyrens of equal power, neutralizing each other. Alincel asks him why he's working so hard to protect a demon's life. Daryl says he wishes for demons and humans to coexist because he's a human who was raised by demons. He explains that one of the former generals, Bezetin, had found him as a baby 30 years ago and entrusted him to Grandversa. Connecting the dots, Alincel realizes that Daryl is the son he thought he lost years ago. Before Daryl can process this, Alincel blocks a fire attack from Grandversa, who just arrived at Lux Village. Grandversa hugs Alincel after reuniting with him after a long time. He admits having known that Daryl was a human after he couldn't use magic past the age of 5, but he couldn't bring himself to leave him because of his love for Daryl, as he could become as strong as he is today. Alincel seethes with his anger, saying that time was supposed to be his, but it was taken away by demons. Losing all that time he could spend with his son filled him with hate and anger, giving him the strength he has today. Alincel is motivated to exact all of his revenge by killing Grandversa right then and there. The two get ready for a fierce fight, but Malika comes in clutch, showing them both baby Gray and their grandson. The two greatest warriors put their differences aside when they see the baby. Even though Alincel can't ever go back in time to be a father, he can use the rest of his time to be a grandfather. Over at the palace, Bashabaza looks forward to the ceremony that will make him the highest-ranking general, but walks into an empty hall. None of the guests accepted his invitation to rub salt in his wounds. All the servers credit Daryl for all the work, saying that nothing gets done when he isn't around. Bashabaza finally snaps and blows up the building before deciding to hunt Daryl down. Back in Daryl's house, his three fathers chug beers together and play with Gran. Alincel makes peace with the past, acknowledging Grandversa's role as a good father figure, and they both shake hands, but he spoils the mood by asking Lady to continue training. Daryl asks why she is still insistent on defeating the Demon King after learning that there are good demons, but Alincel explains that it has always been the hero's belief that the Demon King is the source of all misfortune, and that his defeat would bring an abundance of fortune. However, Alincel knows this is just propaganda. In reality, the Demon King possesses the greatest wisdom and power in the world. The Central Guild believes that taking him down will give them power, allowing humans to evolve into the superior race. For instance, the Central Guild suspects that demons are bestowed their magical powers by the Demon King, and if they defeat him, even the Central Guild can learn to possess magic. After revealing the greedy intentions behind the battle, Alincel asks Lady if she still wants to fight. She says that she will continue on her mission as her hero, as she wishes to see everything with her own eyes before coming up with her own answer. At that moment, Fatibidan rushes in to inform everyone that the mithril mine is under attack by a monster. Zabienis transports everyone to the mine with her wind powers. They are horrified to see a giant monster that none of them have seen before. Even though none of the guards were harmed while escaping, the knockers are still trapped inside. Without hesitation, Dariel runs into the mine to save the knockers with Alincel accompanying him. Lady and her party, Grandversa, and Zabienis unite forces to fight the monster, but nothing seems to affect it. Dariel and Alincel find the knockers hiding beneath the rubble, but the dragon-like monster descends to face them. Father and son cast Skyrens together, causing the dragon to fall to the ground. It quickly gets back up and roars at Dariel. Dariel extends his hand toward it, and the monster looks at it for a while before flying away. Sensing something weird is happening, Grandversa returns to the Demon King's castle. Zabienis and the rest rescue the knockers and injured guards. One of the mine workers is reported missing. Grandversa arrives at the castle and immediately goes to his son to confront him about the Room of Secrets. The Room of Secrets is a hidden chamber in the castle that houses every hex, which are types of magic banned for being too powerful and risky, sort of like the dark web. Grandversa had sensed Bashabaza's traces on the monster that attacked the mine, making him realize that he had used a hex to control monster. He lectures his son about how he wastes his magical abilities on wrong deeds, and how he should have learned from Dariel. Bashabaza retaliates by calling his father a traitor for being friends with humans. Having seen him through the eyes of the monster, Grandversa realizes Bashabaza has used the Spirit Synchronization Hex, a super taboo hex that invades the caster's mind and makes them slowly lose their ability to distinguish themselves from others. Bashabaza summons the dragon monster to take him to the mine where both heroes are present, hoping to defeat them both at once. Over the mine, Dariel tries rescuing all the knockers when he is confronted by a scary-looking giant thing asking for him. It reveals itself to be the magical earth beast Gigantomachia. It says it is hurt to see his friend Salamandra, or the dragon monster, so angry. Recognizing Dariel's good heart, the giant rewards him by removing some of the restrictions present in the mithril structure in his Hermes sword. Later, Dariel receives information from Grandversa that Bashabaza was the one controlling the Salamandra, and that he is approaching Lux Village with the 4 legendary beasts to kill Alincel, Lady, and her party. Dariel's first course of action is to evacuate his village. Malika gives him a glove and a ring as a form of good luck. He and the other warriors wait for Bashabaza's arrival. Bashabaza makes a grand entry with his fierce Salamandra. As soon as they greet each other, Bashabaza notices the ring on Dariel's finger and asks if he is married. Clapping with glee, Bashabaza says he will first kill his wife. Dariel transforms his sword to a whip to keep Salamandra in its place, and Zabienis uses her strong wind powers to force it to the ground. Dariel unleashes Skyrend and slashes at Bashabaza with his sword while requesting a negotiation to make amends for taking control of the mine. Bashabaza clarifies that he doesn't care about that, but instead has come to complete his dream to end the demon-human conflict. What he actually means by that is to kill the heroes and eradicate all humans to end the conflict. As they continue fighting, Bashabaza ends up cornering Dariel against a wall. Dariel commends Bashabaza for his amazing magic skills and for being able to use powerful hexes. Frustrated by his words, Bashabaza decides to use the trump card he was saving for the heroes. He uses the hex to enhance his powers, growing 2 horns and a tail like the devil. At the same time, the others are engaged in fighting the Salamandra. One of the hero party's members makes a dome-shaped wall around them so that the monster can't fly away while the rest attack with full force. The 2 veterans, Alincel and Grandversa, swiftly take it down and cherish this moment, as it is the first time humans and demons have united with one threat taken care of. They focus their attention on the giant fireball and bolt of light in the distance. Bashabaza cast the fireball out of anger when Dariel was trying to convince him to stop. The last thing he wants is to be told what to do by Dariel. Daryl recognizes the spell he used for the fireball and realizes he must stop it or it will destroy the whole village. He uses the Hermes sword to channel his aura into a giant light beam and destroys the spell. The hex continues taking a greater toll on Bashabaza's body, transforming him into a dark beast-like figure. He attacks Daryl with renewed strength and pins him against a wall. The spirit synchronization hex becomes so strong the magic starts spilling over, causing Daryl to enter Bashabaza's memories. Bashabaza deeply admired his father and wanted to become one of the heavenly generals just like his dad. However, he would hardly get to see him once in a few years. When Bashabaza was 10, Grandversa brought Daryl home and introduced this stranger as his older brother. Bashabaza was filled with sadness, realizing his father spent the time he could spend with his son with Daryl instead. He wasn't allowed to join the army until he grew much older and excelled in magic. When he finally thought he could be by his father's side, Grandversa retired and gave him the general position and Daryl to be his aide. His constant loneliness turned into hate and bitterness, forcing him to make beating Daryl his life's purpose. Daryl finally understands Bashabaza's feelings and tries to communicate his feelings through their synchronized thoughts. He shares how he always knew he didn't belong in Grandversa's family and was not capable of doing magic, so he did his best never to cause any trouble. When he met Bashabaza for the first time, he was determined to be a good older brother to him, but now understands that he failed. He promises Bashabaza that if he can be forgiven, he will do what an older brother is supposed to do and support him until he can feel loved and safe. Daryl's words reached Bashabaza, causing the hex to break, and Bashabaza returns to his normal body. Now that the hex is broken, Bashabaza no longer has control over Salamandra. Salamandra goes on a rampage, but Bashabaza fuses himself with its body to control it for a short period of time and take it somewhere else at the cost of his life. Bashabaza accepts his fate and is glad to have at least reconciled with his family before dying. However, Grandversa and Daryl chase the monster down, destroy it, and save Bashabaza. Daryl and the others return to his home, where Malika waits for them with a huge feast. Seeing her husband safe and sound, she gives him a hug so tight it almost kills him. At the same time, Bashabaza faces the Demon King for his crimes. He banishes Bashabaza from the Demon Kingdom as punishment. Grandversa brings Bashabaza to Daryl's home, where he is welcomed with open arms. He meets Gray and his baby niece, who says his first word, Big Brother Bashabaza. Everybody, humans and demons alike, celebrate together. Bashabaza leaves to help those he hurt, like the Knockers, and travels the world to increase his knowledge. Daryl continues living his happy second life in the small, peaceful village.